and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AWOL, and today I'm going to make two patterns out of that design you just saw. And yeah, let's kind of get at it. So first thing is I copy it over and I rotate it, and then I zoom it so that way it's a little bit easier for me to see. And we're still using my graph paper. I've already got it measured up to size as to the size of a existing bracelet. I kind of skipped putting that in here today, but yeah, basically I sized it up to make sure that it was going to be right around the length of an existing bracelet. So now you can see I'm going to fill in the colors, and I'm sticking to the middles because that's the easier part for me to actually see what's going on. And I'm just going to go through the rainbow of the colors because that's a little bit easier than trying to mix in blacks and stuff. Well, if you use black and then you have to change it out altogether, you get rid of all of the little outside boxes, and that really bothers me. And since there's only 6 colors, using the rainbow works. Now, at this point, you can see my brain suddenly was like, wait, I could do something really cool here. I could make it divided into quarters, but then I tried figuring out, like, would I count that out or how would I do it? And then it dawned on me, if I just start from the other side and do the same thing with the colors, I could make it meet in the middle. And I thought that would be a fun take on this particular pattern. So it's basically, it's very similar to the original, just it just kind of goes off the rails a bit. So yeah, as you can see through the greens, then I get to the blues, and that's where I start to notice, like, wait, is there room for this? And it turns out it just meets up perfectly, right? And then obviously, because we're using all of the colors, the inside part would be purple, and there we go. So now it's about kind of filling it in. So I was trying to work out, like, in this part, could I have made the blues come out further? And the answer to that is, yeah, I could have maybe made some changes there, but I kind of saw the way it was kind of going, and I kind of went, like, that's really not bad. That makes for an interesting quarter part of the bracelet. So it's not the halfway point, it's something completely different. And I think it's because this was turning out so much different that I decided I wanted to have another crack at it, and that's why you'll see later on in the video I came up with something completely different. And I kind of wanted to be able to show the fact that you can go so different like this, that because I want you guys to be able to create something that's completely your own, something that you think would be fun to do. You notice I'm only going to the center line again because we just copy and paste it and switch sides. So now it's about getting those inside threads. Where do they go? How do they connect? And obviously I like to start with the ones that I can see, the ones that are obvious, and then work my way around from there. And you'll see actually in the next bracelet, I got ahead of myself and made it so that way there was a disconnect. I had to undo a bunch of the paint things and redo it. But yeah, it happens. I mean, that's the beauty of doing it on the computer first, so that way you can figure out what exactly needs to be done, and that way you don't have a problem with getting all your strings in a bunch, right? Get part way down and realize, nope, this isn't it. You end up scrapping a whole bracelet. So yeah, it's better to do it on the computer first. And seriously, I'm just using a readily made pattern and just changing it into something interesting. So yeah. As you can see too, as I get more and more done, I can see where the colors come from and where they go out and stuff. So this is the further along you get, basically the easier it becomes. So and again, just working with the colors that I can obviously see which directions they change, and then kind of leaving the rest till after, where I need to work out the other details. But yeah, I noticed I missed a few oranges there, so yeah. Yeah, before I did the blue, I figured out, wait, where's the purple going and coming from? So yeah, that was a quick save on my part, and then obviously now I know where the blue goes. And then the fact that that actually connects up with the rest of everything. It's like once everything is connected and you see a path for it, then you have a workable pattern. There is potential for some pieces being a little bit different, but when everything actually connects as it's supposed to, then it's a workable thing. You can actually make the bracelet. So yeah. And here I'm working on the other side. I haven't figured out how it meets up in the middle, but I'm working the other side so that way I get a better understanding of what I can see. And again, this just makes it easier to fill in the last parts. And certain things, you know, just had to happen, like those oranges going down to the purple thing. That just had to happen because there's no other place for it to possibly go. When you get down to that, then it becomes real easy to know what you're having to do. Like the blue right there, just there's only the one path that it can possibly take. So yeah. And that was me trying to figure out, wait, what's my next color? Where is the next thing going? So. And mind you, this is sped up twice the normal speed. The only reason for that was because if I didn't, this whole video would have taken over an hour, and I didn't think anybody wanted to sit through that much bracelet making. So yeah. So sorry, it gets a little jarring with the speed, but I was trying to figure out like where the red comes and goes to. Here, I figured out that it was actually easier to sort out the purple first, because that one actually connects to something, and then yeah, and then I can leave the reds and the oranges till afterwards and figure out where they actually play into the whole thing. And seeing that they actually connected like just like they're supposed to, like that was such a relief, you know. It's at that point where you know your pattern's doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah. And then once I've got it on the one side, I know that I can actually match that for the other side. Again, the ease of working with something that's this symmetrical, right? And then there's only the one part left, and that's going to be the path of the orange. And mind you, this pattern would really work in a lot of color combinations, like fades and stuff. We have 6 colors, so that could be really cool. Now that I've got the half done, I copy and paste it in, and then flip it over and drag it down. That's it. It's that simple. Again, I'm using GIMP in case you hadn't noticed or wasn't sure what I was using. It's a free software for image manipulation. It works pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of what Photoshop was back when it was like Photoshop 5 or Photoshop 5. So yeah, and it's free. It works on Windows, Linux, and Macs. So whatever computer you have, it'll work. Obviously, probably not great for a phone, but I do have the patterns available over on my website, AKAAWOL.com, so you can check that out. So that was the first one. And here goes the second one. So the first one, we kind of started where the X of these two different like bubble things work from, right? So this time I decided I was going to work from the center of the bubble itself. I guess that's kind of a way of describing it. So yeah, putting that kind of part into the center right there. So yeah, again, I start with the red. I always do that just because it's easy for me to think of. I don't know, it just works. And again, I'm just concentrating on the center part, leaving part of the rest. Well, no, I take that back. Because I knew that this one kind of runs out to that middle area, I didn't have to like leave it. So yeah, just follow the colors through. So yeah, so we're gonna have that interesting bubble thing right in the center of the bracelet. So that I thought would be a completely different way of looking at this pattern. And then so yeah. Now at some point in here, I realized I need to actually flip it. And yeah, looking at where it flipped on the other one, I kind of tried to do the similar thing with this. So and yeah, so I do it on the purple. And then again, here's where I start working from the middle part again, because it's harder to like know where all the rest of the outside part goes, right? And then once I got to the end, obviously I could work out the rest of that. And the little red dot at the end. So it turns out really good. I mean, it could have been a few rows longer, I suppose, but it turned out really, I thought, pretty good. Like that's kind of exciting. And now I have those outside parts. So I know that after purple comes the red, right? Because we're just going to cycle through the colors. And then we'll have the orange on the other part. So this changes up the whole feel of the bracelet because you end up with something different in the middle and it sort of plays along. It's not exactly like the other pattern was, like it wasn't just centered. I think that it does kind of change it a bit, but not terribly far from the original. So if you're trying to do the original, you could probably I think maybe it would have gone to the red to have changed over. So yeah, slight differences, but I think that's something you have leeway with, you know, when you're trying to work out these things. As well, you should try different things. Like I said, I showed you two different possibilities with the same pattern that will come out with bracelets that have very, very different feels for it, right? So could you come up with something completely different? Absolutely. Would I encourage that? Absolutely. Because I think that's where the fun of the bracelet making is, right? Is the whole freedom to try and experiment and change and do things with it. So yeah. And you can see right here, I suddenly like saw the path where the blue just goes right through it. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. You know, can follow that all the way down and through. It's later with the red and the purple that I got things kind of turned around. You'll see that a little bit later on. But yeah. And again here with the purple coming up, you can tell like there's very limited ways that the path could go. So that's tracing that through is relatively simple. And that's because I already started with a lot of the colors that I could see. So yeah. But up here, I probably needed to wait a little bit. So yeah. we'll get to there. We'll get to the mess up. Yeah, and there's the red making its connection all the way through. And yeah. So yeah, just working out these undercolors just helps to assure that you have everything going to join where it's supposed to join. You know which direction the knots are going to go. You know what strings you're going to start out with. Those are the big key points to getting the pattern worked out at this detail. Even when you think that you have the pattern worked out, unless you actually do this under part, there is room for things to have gone wrong. And yeah, it'll just make your whole life a whole lot easier if you figure out how to do this and make it come through. It's basically the lines are like this on the other pattern, the one that actually came from friendshipbracelets.net. But because we're changing things around, we have to actually make sure that we are connecting the different areas of the bracelet together, that the oranges join where the orange is supposed to be, that the red joins where the red's supposed to be. See, at this point I thought, look, red just couldn't go along that whole outside part, but then that doesn't leave room for the green. And yeah, see right there is I knew the green had to go across, so I back off a bunch of the painting things, and then work out the green. And yeah, so now I can see a new path for the reds. It doesn't go from there. Put in the greens with it. Now, mind you, if I had already filled in what I could see beforehand, I wouldn't have made the mistake with the red, right? So now I can see that the red comes through, and that's how it travels. So yeah, I learned something, and hopefully you can see from that too, right? All right. Well, this is almost the end of it. Again, I'm going to copy and paste it, flip it over, and join the two together. Hopefully you are inspired to want to try taking on a bracelet design of your own. If not, you can go ahead and go to AKAAWOL.com into the tutorials and check out these patterns so that you can make them yourself. I've enjoyed putting this whole video together for you today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. So that's pretty much it for this. If you guys have questions, comments, leave them below, and I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. And remember, as always, don't get your strings in a bunch. There it goes. Oh, quick note. You can actually use the arrow keys to actually shift this thing along. So when you're joining it together, use the arrow keys. All right. You guys have a good one. Thanks for watching. And yeah, the strings in the bunch thing.